Guys, welcome back to another episode of the Airbnb Nomads podcast. And on this week's Property Education Masterclass, we're joined by the incredibly inspirational Kelly Maxfield. Now, Kelly's going to be telling us about her journey from being made redundant from her long-term corporate job and how that catapulted her into a now six-figure serviced accommodation business, and how her and her husband are living a lifestyle by design off the back of that truly automated and passive business. It is a truly inspiring story, and you really want to stick around to hear the whole thing. Now, guys, if you are getting a lot of value from this, we're so excited to have you join us on this journey throughout this podcast episode. If you do get value from this, we would massively appreciate it if you could leave us a review. It gives us great visibility on the platforms and just allows us to grow and give you even more value. So, on that note, here we go. Kelly, thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
How are we doing?
Good.
Another nice wet day in Peterborough.
Oh yeah, glorious.
How was the drive?
Very wet.
About as rubbish as mine, no doubt.
Aquaplaning down the motorway.
Aquaplaning. Everyone loves a bit of aquaplaning. Right. I'm excited for this episode because I think, and I said to you before we started, I haven't looked too much into you because I like things to kind of unfold naturally in these conversations. Yeah. But obviously I know a little bit about what you've done, where you are, what you've achieved, and the kind of life that you've created and carved out for yourself up to this point. And I think you are already in a very short space of time in a place where a lot of people are desperately trying to get to, right? And I think very few people realistically are going to get there. So I think this is inspiring to listen to, especially because of the space, the amount of time that you've taken to get to where you are.
Yeah.
So I'm really, and I think you've gone about it in a very unique way, and that's going to come out in this podcast. There's some things that you've done differently that I've already picked up on during our brief conversation leading up to this point that is very, very different and very unique. And I think it's very, very interesting that you've swum upstream a little bit. You've gone against the masses, right? You haven't gone down the original road, which is what we're all told to do, and, you know, load up on the courses and consume. You've just kind of gone for it. You've jumped in and you've achieved a success. Yeah, you've covered your eyes, you've blindfolded and you've jumped in. But what's interesting is it's worked. So let's start at the beginning, right? Let's go back, rewind a little bit. Tell me a little bit about your background. Where did it all begin?
So I actually purchased my first house when I was 17, so I couldn't even get a mortgage at that point. I managed to get it a cash deal. It was £6,000, like an absolute steal. £6,000 my first house.
For a house.
And in those days, I mean, this was 97-ish, I think. In those days, the average house price in that area was probably about 25 anyway, so they were quite cheap. But this particular house, we had a survey done. I think I was getting it for about 16 grand anyway, because it needed everything doing.
Wow.
And we had a survey done. They said it needed underpinning. So no one had given me a mortgage on it. So, I mean, my dad was the driving force behind this anyway, so I don't know if he just wanted rid of me out of the house, I'm not really sure, but he was the one who kind of said, well, we'll offer him £5,000 cash.
Did you know, Kelly, sorry to jump in, but did you, because that's quite rare, right, for a 17-year-old to be trying to buy a property?
Yeah.
So why was that? Did you already kind of understand the benefits of getting on the property ladder at a young age, or was it more? I think
it was more my dad did. So my brother had a house a few doors down. He's like 3 years older than me. It was his first property, and this came up, and my dad just saw a great opportunity, thinking, you know, although I was young, it was like, just get me on the ladder kind of thing. You know, it was a nice street, and I had the money put away anyway. I had kind of like a policy that I'd saved up like an ISA over years and stuff, so I had the money cash to be able to buy it, or to put a deposit down at least at that point. But we ended up just using that to purchase it. I got a mortgage for like 12 grand. We made it like new roof, fully plastered. You know, it was completely refit out. But that again was my dad. I learned a lot from my dad because, you know, me and my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, we'd sit in front of the TV on a Saturday morning. My dad would be putting the roof on, refurbing it. He really kind of wanted to give us a head start.
So was your father in property?
No, not at all.
It was just he just understood the power of it, and was he investing alongside his job, or
no? I think he just had that insight to want to set us up a little
Get
bit.
you set up.
So even though, I mean, my dad, we wouldn't have done it without my dad, but it was all my money. It wasn't like I was given thousands of pounds and said, you know, here's a house kind of thing. So, I mean, we did some of the work ourselves as well. We learnt a little bit along the way. And then we probably only lived there for about 3 years and ended up buying a new build. And we just seemed to buy and sell at a time where even though we didn't invest in property at that time as trying to invest and make any money, we've just seemed to have bought and sold and made money on every residential property that we'd lived on in since.
Did you understand at that point what you was doing and the power? Sounds to me, the name, right? The name for this would be kind of momentum investing, right? So you're buying a property, you're fixing it up, you're pulling out that equity, you're moving on to something nicer and bigger and more expensive.
Yeah, that's
so. Did you understand what you was doing, or?
I did then. From that point, from that first time we sold, I found a real interest in property at that point. But we were just lucky that we weren't big DIYers. We had no real.
Welcome to my world.
Both working full time, and at that point I wasn't. We had our daughter at 20, so we were young when we started our family. So and Rick worked away a lot, so we weren't in a position really to do a lot of work to properties or anything like that. We just tended to buy new ones, first phase.
Off plan or?
Yeah, just off plan.
Okay.
And just made, and a lot of people say that's not the way to do it. Like, don't buy new properties, they lose money. We've only ever lived in new properties up until our recent one.
Yeah.
And just over time, just made money. 18 months, 60 grand, without doing a thing to it.
Yeah.
So, and at that point, I've never been emotional about houses. I don't feel like when you raise your family that, I'm not getting rid of that house because my memories are there.
It's just bricks and mortar.
Yeah. And the first new build that we bought, I bought it because there was the same builder had an estate in the same village, a few streets away, and they were selling for 30 grand more second hand, and these were going off plan. So straight away I was just like, I'll make money with this. It wasn't the layout that I wanted, it wasn't the size I wanted, but I knew that it'd get us to the next level. Yeah. And we've done that a couple of times since. And we ended up in a really nice property where the kids grew up, 3-storey, 6-bed, really nice house. Right. We weren't on a massive wage. We just never had a very big mortgage because we tended to sell and then we'd buy things that,
slightly lower.
Below market value, basically.
This is the, and we haven't even spoke about what you was doing for a job at this point, but just what you've just gone into there, for me, underpins all of the basics around property ownership and why it's just the best strategy or the best investment vehicle.
Without even trying, sometimes you can just make more than you would make on a salary.
And this is when people are like, well, property is a bit risky and the market goes up and down. It's like, the market does go up and down, but you don't even have to be in property to be educated about it or even care about it. To take a quick look at a chart and just see that, right? Over time, it's always going up. Basic fundamental, basic economics, right? Supply and demand. There's not enough properties for people. It'll always go up. And if you buy into hold for the long term, we're going a bit off the subject here. But if you're buying to hold for the long term, you literally cannot lose, right? The only way you can really lose in property is if you're flipping. If you're buying, trying to add some value and then offloading it, then you're a little bit at the mercy of the economy. If there's a crash, if there's other economic kind of factors, then that could be an issue. But if you're buying to hold or you're buying to live in and then just the general kind of uplift, you're always going to win, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's amazing. So what was you doing as a career alongside that? Because obviously you're not in the property, as you just said, to make money. It was just a natural kind of uplift. So what was your career?
So early on, I wasn't working. I just stayed home with the kids till my oldest was 7, when my youngest went to nursery. And Rick worked away a lot. He was working on cooling towers and stuff. And he used to work abroad 3-4 weeks at a time. So it was difficult, really. It was a difficult time. Like it. And then when the kids went to school, I got a job at a waste management company for a few years. Learned a lot of accounts skills and stuff there. And then I went on to the job that I'd been in up until last December. I'd been there for about 13 years. And basically with that, it was just trailer rental, nothing to do with property, trailer rental.
Trailer rental, tell me a bit about that.
So I started, basically I was the first employee of the company, just a small company. And I just started purchase ledger, sales ledger, credit control. And as it grew and grew and grew, I just took on more responsibilities and kind of handed the job down to new people who came in. Okay. Worked my way up to ops manager.
Your timing is impeccable by the sounds of it. Everything that you touch, it's like... Whoosh.
So I had a really, really good career there. Really enjoyed the work there. it got to a point, it got really, really toxic in the end, unfortunately. It was similar to what you were speaking about before, new directorship, management took over.
Everything changes.
It just went downhill.
So when you say trailer rental, it is what it says on the tin. It's you own trailers.
We buy trailers, we finance them, we maintain them, we rent them out to customers.
Are we talking about, I'm just trying to imagine in my head, are we talking about like huge trailers on the back of lorries?
Yeah, the big lorry trailers, fridge trailers, curtain siders, things like that. So nothing to do with property whatsoever.
Right.
But always in the background, I always had this interest in property. I always wanted to be a landlord. I always wanted to buy houses and rent them out. I was always too scared. It was the fear that stopped me, even though I knew they'd made us money over time. And
that wasn't even trying. That was so you're like, okay, if I tried to do this and actually, okay, so you was interested in it. Yeah. You're in your job, you're in your career, but in the back of your mind, you're like, okay, this property thing, there might be something to it. So how far back are we going now? When you're in this trailer company?
Opened the company 3 years ago this month. So it's been about 2.5 years since we bought our first one. So by the time we'd bought our first one, it'd be like 3 years in June. By the time we completed on it, and started to do the refurb. So like 2.5 years actively.
In the service accommodation business?
No, we started off, our plan was not, we had it in the back of our mind, service accommodation. We wanted, but again, we knew nothing about it, a little bit scared. Right. So we were just doing BRR. Okay, right, got you. So when we're talking about, I'm just kind of, working my way down the timeline. When you was doing it in the trailer hire company, how far back was that? How far back are we going? 4 or 5 years maybe? Or longer? What, that I worked there for?
That you worked there? That you was just
13 years.
13 years?
I was there a long time, yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, a long time.
And then there was a change in management. Did it get sold or something? Or was it, how did it become toxic?
We got took over by a big organisation, probably about 4 or 5 years into me being there. But that still was fine. And it was at a point where our director was looking to retire and move on. Right. And they were advertising for a general manager, and I applied for that job, bearing in mind, I knew that company inside out. I was the only one that did. Everybody else there was a lot newer than me. I was the first one. I'd done literally every single job. I'd been financial controller, I'd been operations, I'd been purchase ledger.
So you knew
I'd done everything.
Inside out.
Kind of covered everything. I didn't get the job, and that's fair enough. And looking back at it now, obviously it's the best thing that happened. But the toxic way it was done, it was not my managers who told me I didn't get the job. It was the recruitment agency that they were using told me I didn't. I've been there for 13 years. God, and it's like, come on. It just made me think, this, in the end, you don't get looked at. No matter how much you think you're going to get looked after, you don't get looked after. People will turn on you.
A couple of things there. Initially, as you're talking about that, obviously you should have got that job, right? So I'm thinking, and I don't know how much of a believer you are in this, but do you think maybe based on where you are now and where maybe you would have been if you had got that job, do you think maybe it was like a little bit woo-woo, but do you think maybe it was like the universe stepping in and
absolutely.
I believe in that. Because why else wouldn't you have got that job?
Some people do say they don't want to believe in that because then you kind of leaving everything to the universe and you're not in control. But I don't think that's true because I think the way that you react to situations, the way you conduct yourself with these things that happen are the things that guide you to where you're going. So it's not just that, I didn't get that job, so, it's up to them that I'm successful now. It's not. It's because I took that and I said, right, exactly. That's fine, I know what I need to do now.
Yeah, you could have seen it as a negative, could have got you down, could have, stepped back and gone into a lesser job. Yeah. But instead you used it as momentum to move forward. Yeah. The other thing that kind of comes up as you're speaking, and maybe I'll tell my story briefly about what I experienced with my organisation, but there's no loyalty, right, in business. When you're in a career, and this is another thing, another reason why I'm a big advocate for entrepreneurship, building your own business, being completely self-reliant. You and your family are the only people that you can rely on, right? And sometimes, unfortunately, family can be a bit of a push at times for some unfortunate people. But when you're in a job or a career and you give it your all, your everything, the best years of your life, and you sit back and you think, you know what, they're going to look after me. And then they turn around and they stab you in the back.
The reason I was given why I didn't get the job? I didn't have enough commercial experience. I've not been obviously out in the big wide business world enough. because I'd worked for them for 13 years. So
right.
So I did actually say to the recruitment guy at the time, well, there's only one way to remedy that, then, isn't there?
Yeah.
You know, there's only one way, and it's...
So their excuse was that they wanted to build the business and they wanted to bring in someone with more commercial experience and more business building experience.
Yeah, which at the time I thought, fair enough, you're going to bring in somebody who's been in the industry for years, knows it like the back of the hand, and that wasn't the case. And the business is just... The turnover of staff since, while I was there and since, is just unbelievable, because it's just a toxic management system in there.
So did you choose to leave after you got the job?
You know what, I didn't, because I'd been there that long and I kind of got left alone, even though it was a very toxic place. I'd been through a lot there, and I thought, well, you're not going to drive me out. I was happy. I loved my job. I was really good at my job, and I loved it, and everyone came to me, you know, and I got on really well with all the staff. It was, you know, the management that were just awful. So I was working from home quite a lot. I was left to it. I knew what I was doing, so I was like, fine. I had a plan. We did say a couple of years we'd be gone anyway. But luckily, I got a phone call from the director saying that HR, the company that owns us, the HR department, wanted to catch up with me. So he wasn't even brave enough to you know, face me with anything. So they wanted to catch up. So then
I've had one of those catch up meetings a little while ago.
Because I'm thinking, I've only ever met this guy once who wants to catch up with me. So I rang my dad actually on the way there, because part of me is thinking, are they going to actually, because I've been there that long, are they going to ask me, what's going on at the place? Why is this turnover so bad, Kelly? You know, you've been here a lot of years. Yeah. I kind of thought that was where it was going, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, you know, I think I knew a little bit too much about certain situations. And part of me was thinking, my dad got made redundant, so I rang him on the way and said, you know, when this happened, did they give you any warning, or did they just call you to head office? He was like, oh no, they just called me in. I was like,
isn't that interesting?
This is it.
I think, you know, I've had experiences, and I'll talk about it in a second, kind of similar to what you're talking about, that kind of underlying, you know, backstabbing and politics that goes on when you're in a big corporate environment. And I don't think a lot of people understand that, who haven't been in that environment.
No.
How much you can literally be the best at your job, know everything there is to know about the company, be the best person for that job, but if you ruffle the feathers of the wrong person, know something about the wrong person, and they've got the power, you're gone.
Yeah, that's how it got in the end. But I was actually, after the meeting, because I think the guy, I mean, like I said, I only met him once or twice. He was the director of HR. I think he was really shocked at my reaction, because I was like, right, okay. You know, there was no crying, no. He's like, were you expecting this? I said, no, totally out of the blue. But then they were talking me through. But all the time in my mind, I was thinking, because we'd bought, I think we had, I don't know if we had all 5 at that point, or we were maybe completing on the last 1 or 2. So we were building this business anyway, and my mind was just racing at the time of like, this is it.
You saw the opportunity.
Oh yeah, I was dancing in the car on the way home with the music on.
Amazing.
Because I knew I'd been there a long time, so I'm, you know.
And this is the, as I'm doing this podcast, right, I'm meeting people like yourself, there's a common theme. And this is what's interesting about these podcasts when you dig deep into someone's story, and it always comes back to the same thing. There was some kind of adversity. There was something that happened that was a negative that would potentially upset, bring down the majority of people, right? And go, fuck, you know, I lost my job. What am I going to do? I've been there 20 years. I'm useless. I can't do anything. I'm too old. All of these negatives, right, come out. But the people that take that negative and see the opportunity that comes with it, that the freedom that now allows them to go after their goals that are already there in the back of their mind, and take it and go, okay, this is my opportunity. And then they take it and they turn it into a positive. That is something that I'm picking up over and over again on these podcasts, and you just saying the same thing.
Like I say, I think it's how you react to, you know, life is always going to throw situations at you, and it's what you do then to deal with that. And, you know, you might do something that doesn't work, but, you know, you don't fail until you've stopped trying, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know people very close to me, and, you know, this isn't, I'm not putting anyone down, saying anything negative. They're very, very happy in their life and what they've achieved and all the rest of it. But there are people that spend their whole life in one job, right? And it's because it's comfortable, it's because it's easy, it's because they know it and they get that. What you was explaining, you was at that job for so long that people were coming to you. You had some authority, right? You knew it inside out, and that's nice. It's nice to feel that way. But I think in the back of people's minds, if you're only ever in one job or one career and you don't try anything else, that maybe is there just like at the back of your brain thinking, come on, try me. If you don't ever give yourself that chance, I think most people at the end of it will look back and go, what if?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. What if I'd have tried? What would have happened? How would my life turned out? And we can all do that. Like we're all in situations, I've had more than I can count, times in my life where an opportunity has come up or there's been 2 doors, right? And it's like, do you want to go left? Do you want to go right? And you have to make a decision, but you can't help look back and think, okay, I'm here now. What if I'd have taken that door?
Yeah.
But if you take a door, right? If you take a chance, at least you can say I tried.
Yeah.
Right. So really, there's no downside to it. Okay. So you're out the job. You're out the trailer hire business. Mm-hmm. You're now classing yourself as like self-employed. I'm going to give this entrepreneurial thing a go.
Yeah, totally lost in the beginning because it was just a shock to the system, and we'd spent the prior year, so the house, the last big house that we'd bought that I said that we'd raise the kids in, that one we ended up selling. Just was it about 20? We'd bought 2 or 3 rental properties, and I just said, my husband had wanted to downsize for years as the kids grew up and went to uni.
So the kids are gone now. They're grown up.
Kids are gone. They're 25 and 22 on Monday. Yeah, so the kids are grown up. It was when they went to uni as well. We had a complete rethink.
Yeah.
Well, let's downsize the house. So we took some equity as well out the house. To buy a couple of properties, massively downsized. And
see, and sorry to jump in again, but that's another step that you casually say and probably don't even realise what you did there. But that is another thing that you did that's kind of catapulted you to where most people wouldn't have done that. They would have gone, okay, the kids have gone, now we've got this lovely big house, more than we need with a big mortgage, but we can like sit back and enjoy it all.
Yeah.
But you were like, no, we need to cash in, take everything that we can get in order to move us forward now.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So how did that go?
It went, I mean, again, like I said, we're not DIYers, and we ended up, so we sold our house that needed nothing doing to it at all, moved into this 3-bed semi, lovely little house, but it was horrific when we bought it.
So this was the first house that you would buy that wasn't a ready-to-go turnkey?
Yeah, apart from the first one, but like I say, my dad really did the majority of that. So yeah, the first one of us doing it ourselves.
Was there any anxiety around that, like living in a place that needed a lot of work?
We just didn't think about it, We just had this plan of, right, we want to buy more houses. Yeah, we'll just live there. We'll do it up as we're living there. I mean, we had to have a full rewire. I was sat working from home and there was just like chipping all the walls out, and we lived in rubble for and that's just not us at all. But it's quite funny, like we've said, we've never ever looked back and missed that lovely comfy house that we had. We never said, oh, I wish we'd never done this. We just knew, no matter how uncomfortable it was, we could see the end, So we fully renovated the house, built an extension, and it's brilliant now just for us two. It's a bit crowded when the kids come home now and bring the partners and whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we spent a year doing that, and then as soon as we'd finished that, then I got made redundant just as we moved in.
Okay.
So we had Christmas, so I had a bit of time really. The kids were home and, from uni and from work and stuff, so I didn't have a lot of time to properly think about it until the new year. But then there was another property that we'd just completed on before I got made redundant, which needed refurbing, so I was just doing that every day. But then at that point, Rick was gutted. He was ringing me from work just saying, I want to be doing this with you. I want to, you know what I mean?
Right.
He was kind of missing out. Yeah, there's me ripping the kitchen out and taking it to the tip. And
he had FOMO.
Yeah, he had real FOMO. So we were like, right, we'll try and escalate it now and see how quickly we can build it up and get you out kind of thing. So we bought another 2. So we had 5 at that point, renovating 1.
And you're, let's think here. So it's very easy to say, well, we just went out and bought these properties. Was there, and this is what I like about you, there doesn't appear to be any clear-cut plan.
Oh, God, no.
Right? You're not number stacking, deal crunching, analysing.
No, we've not had a single spreadsheet up until that point.
Love it.
So we do now, obviously, we've got to do a lot more tracking of stuff now. But yeah, at that point, it was just, we knew how much properties were in the area. So we did do some research looking around. What could they sell for? Was it a good deal? We were lucky that we had, because we took the equity out of the property. I mean, this is it. We started off with a bit of money, which made it easier. But it's still surprising, even when you've got that bit of money to invest. It's such a long time before you make any back. Because I still see it now when people talk about, you're silly, don't rush to pay your mortgage off. Take your equity out of your property and you buy and you get 2 buy-to-lets or 3 buy-to-lets that do this and do that. But if you've got a limited company and you do that and you're buying properties through the limited company, your mortgage has just gone up by however much that is. So unless you're working for the company and taking a wage, that's coming out of your pocket. So it's still difficult. I mean, for a good 6, 7, 8 months, we didn't make a penny. And then obviously we got a tenant in, so it's still only, because the first couple we did were buy to let, because that was our plan in the beginning: buy, refurbish, refinance.
So the idea was to hold on to them?
Yes, completely.
And run them as buy to lets? And
run them as buy to let. So that's what we did with the first 2. And we were lucky that by the time we refinanced, so that's why I say, we bought another. We buy cash, refinance, use that money.
Got you.
Spread it out a little bit, buy another couple.
And at this point, I'm interested to know, like, I understand that you hadn't done courses and, sat there and gorged content about how to do this, and you didn't really have a laser focused plan. But did you at least like sit down and say, okay, where are we trying to get to? What are we trying to accomplish here? What's our end goal? What kind of a life are we trying to create? Was that there? Or?
I did spend a lot of time online. It wasn't completely blind. I did do a lot of research into it. And added a lot of groups and followed a lot of groups and got a lot of advice. And then, if someone mentioned something in a group that I didn't quite understand, I'd do a bit of research on it and, getting the idea to how to do it. But the whole plan really was, because, people say, is it cash flow? Is it, capital appreciation? Is it a pension? What are you trying to do? We were trying to do it all. We wanted to be able to leave work because we were making enough money. We wanted to have a comfortable pension. So we've got this pot that... of properties that at that point, if we wanted to hand it off to anybody else to manage at that point and just take the money or do whatever, and also build it up for the kids.
Build a nest egg for the kids.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why the latest thing we've done is help the kids set up a company. So the latest property purchase they've done.
Wow.
Because of the whole plan, it is to leave them to that.
Yeah.
Leave it to them in the end. But then there's still inheritance tax. Sure. Even with a limited company, they'll always get you somehow or other.
Absolutely.
So we've said, let's sort it with the kids. So the kids have got a property now that is getting renovated at the minute. So we're taking control of the majority of it, and doing all the spec to get it where it needs to be. But we're future-proofing that property as well. So because we don't know where regulations are going, if that's going to be a holiday let, so we're making sure we fit in all the fire doors, but all the fire casings as well, because you never know where it's going to go, kind of thing.
That's really smart. Not a lot of people do that. So did you ever think about stuff like, higher cash flow in, rental properties like HMOs or anything? Or
we'd love to do that, but we don't have enough knowledge of that yet, kind of.
You don't need knowledge. Well, you've proven that.
But we have actually said with this one, we're kind of speccing it up because it's it was a 2-bed. We made it into a 4-bed. So this is it. We're fitting the fire casings and stuff because we're thinking if ever it could become a HMO, just future-proof, just plan for everything. Yeah. We fitted a little shower room upstairs into a corner that you couldn't really fit anything in, but it's got an upstairs and a downstairs bathroom now, and just try and because in the beginning we had this plan of what we're going to do and we've gone off. It's like, right, well, let's try and cover a lot of bases now and future-proof things and try and do things.
And I think that's something that is important is to know where you're trying to head to, right? And we had this discussion in the beginning with the people that we work with our mentees. What are you trying to achieve? What's your vision? What's your why? What's the end goal here? Because there's different. If you've got kids, for example, do you want to build something where you want a legacy to pass over to them? If you don't have kids, if you don't have anyone that you necessarily want to build that for, do you want to concentrate on cash flow for right now, right? That's going to be able to change your life today and tomorrow and give you the life that you want while you're young and you can enjoy it. Mm-hmm. So it's important to look at where you are and what you're trying to achieve. Otherwise, you can just go day to day and you're doing it, you're working hard, you're grinding, you're hustling, you're learning, you're doing great stuff, but you're like, okay, why?
Ours was more time. Because it was COVID that really shook us up. I loved working from home. Obviously, COVID was terrible and what have you. But for me, working from home, it just changed my mindset completely. Because we were like, you spend all this money on your mortgage and your property, and you're out all day at work. You're going to work every day to pay for this property that you're not really living in or enjoying. And we've always loved holiday. So even, like I said, we've bought new houses. We've never spent anything on them. We've put our nice furniture and we've done what we needed to do, but we've never done any big spend on the house because especially the kids growing up, we just always want to travel, take the kids somewhere. Because I said when they're older, they won't say, we had a lovely living room. They'll say we had great holidays, great memories.
It's a subject that's close to my heart, right? Obviously, I spend a lot of time overseas, and I completely buy into that. And I think it's something that people need to wake up to in this country specifically. The weather's bad, I get that. There's a certain lifestyle in this country that means that people work all the hours to then use that money to buy these materialistic things like a big TV, nice throw pillows, and a £4,000 couch. Yep. To spend all of their downtime or free time, which is not a lot, in this house. And it's like, where's the living? Where's the excitement? Where's the memories? Where's the experiences? Yeah.
Absolutely.
It doesn't make sense to me.
No.
But I think it's something that's just kind of drummed into you as a kid in the education system here. And it's just the life that you just get thrown into. Oh yeah, don't get me started. That's a whole nother podcast. So broken and archaic, but we are where we are. It already sounds like you had all the makings, the mindset, the understandings and the beliefs of someone who was going to take a different path. So now you're in property full time, you're doing the BRR thing. The plan is to hold.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. We don't plan on selling anything.
So now you're building legacy wealth for your kids. But you're also now in this dilemma where a lot of people find themselves, which is, okay, I'm building legacy wealth. And I've been in this position. I've built a buy-to-let portfolio. They bring in, a nice amount of money each month, pays the mortgages. There's plenty left over, but it's not enough to change, to change my life now, right? Yeah. That's going to help me in 10, 15, 20 years' time through capital appreciation. So I was caught in the dilemma of, okay, I'm building long-term security, but I need money and cash flow now. Yeah. So is that the kind of position you was in, and you started looking around at other strategies?
Yeah. So basically we got the third property that we bought. I still love the house. It's our unicorn property. We didn't even do anything to it and bought it cash, refinanced it 6 months later, and it was revalued at 35 grand more. Just like I said, just buying at the right time. I mean, we knew at the time it was cheap. We thought it was strange. And that's the first one we did serviced accommodation on. And it's just been an absolute boom, that one.
35 grand in 6 months.
Yeah. And we didn't touch it. We didn't even give it a lick of paint.
And that's tax-free money, right?
Yeah, because
you're refinancing.
Refinanced it and then reinvested that towards buying the next two. So it actually paid us 3.5 grand to buy it. That's
insane.
Yeah. Cost us 90 grand and got valued at 125. So mortgage was like 93.5 grand. It was just mad.
And what's interesting about this, guys, is that Kelly's doing all this and achieving all this and everything that she's done up to this point with no education.
Yeah.
You did
TikTok.
a bit. Yeah, you did a bit. You did a bit of self-training at home, but you haven't done any official training, and that's what I think is really interesting here. I'm a big advocate for training, 100%. I don't think anybody would say going out and do something without any knowledge. We're not saying that here, but what I am saying is that Kelly was very careful not to fall into this trap that a lot of people find themselves in, which is course after course after course after course after book after book after podcast. And all at that time, staying in their jobs and thinking one day, right? Yeah. You just took massive action and you said, I know I can do this, and you went out and did it. Yeah. And it's
scary though as well. And
of course it's scary.
And you do doubt yourself at times and stuff, but you've just got to give it a go. That's, that's the only way to do it. Jump in.
Do you think you would have given it a go if you'd have got that job in the trailer hire company at some point?
I do, yeah. I probably do think so, actually. Yeah, I do think I would have done.
You would have needed that change.
It would have been a harder decision, obviously, because it would have been...
Walk away from the comfort zone.
Yeah. But I didn't walk away, but the salary I left was a really competitive salary. It was a big... I think I would have struggled to have left it, to be honest. So, like I say, everything happens for a reason.
Absolutely. And you said something when we were talking before we started the episode, which was interesting. You said, admittedly... And I think a lot of us are in the same position. We might now be time rich, right? And we have the freedom to do what we want, when we want, with who we want, go where we want, have all those amazing luxuries. But at the same time, we're maybe not making enough, the same amount of income, right, as we was from our job. Yeah. But then you're like, okay, what is true wealth, right? Yeah. What is the most important thing? okay, I was making more in my corporate job where I was doing 45, 50 hours a week, you know, where I was taking all that stress home with me, where I was worrying about getting up the next day, getting there on time, all the rest of it, paying all the tax and blah, 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 blah. I'm making a little bit less now, but I'm in complete control of my life, my time, my choice.
Absolutely. And we're still living the same life that we did. I think you just get into a habit of you spend what you've got.
Yeah.
And we've not noticed a change in our lifestyle at all.
Yeah. So you've taken a back step initially, and look, there's nothing to say here, and I highly doubt that in a couple of years' time you will not be making more than you was in your corporate job. I think you know, most of us, if we just carry on pushing forward, getting up and failing forward and moving forward and learning and growing and building, it's inevitable that you're going to get to a point where you're earning substantially more than you was in your job. But yes, there will be a period where you step back a little bit, but you get your time back. You're in control. You're in. Yeah. And then it's like, I was up last night at 1 a.m. knowing I had to get up at 6 to come here, writing a post, you know, about the fantastic.
This morning when I woke up, it said like 4 hours ago, and I'm like, it's 1 o'clock.
But my point is I wanted to do it. Because we'd just come off a fantastic mentoring session. Yeah. We'd had some great success stories from some of our mentees, you know, big bookings, new properties. And it was like, I want to document this stuff. I wouldn't have given a shit if that was about my job, right? Absolutely. That I was getting a salary for. So that's something to just bear in mind. Okay, so let's start touching on the service accommodation aspect now. Mm-hmm. How did you even know about it?
I actually had a friend who worked at Touchstone for a while.
Okay.
And she's the one who talked to me about it, basically. So I think she was only there for a few months, but she just told me about the concept. And this was probably a couple of years before we even did it. And they were talking about doing it, her and her husband, and just kind of telling me the kind of things that she'd learned, what people do. And I would have never even imagined, I'd have never even thought of it. So then I started following those on Facebook, and then anyone that's linked to that, just kind of getting a bit of knowledge about it, and then it was just finally we just took the leap with that,
with the unicorn house,
with that third property that we bought. But to be honest, because we were both working at that time and we didn't know anything, we used a local management company.
Okay.
We approached them. So basically I did some Airbnb stalking, found a management company that were local, just messaged them and said, do you manage other people's as well? So they said came out, had a look, told me what to do. And they just took it off our hands and managed it and just paid us every month. And then I just realised after a year, when we were buying more properties, so the next one that we got, I just said, I'll do that one on my own kind of thing. I was going to leave that one with them, but then obviously I got made redundant, and it was like, right, let's just do this on our own. So I just did a lot of research online, just made sure we were compliant, and that was it, just took it from there.
Okay. So...
just jumped in quite quick.
Jumped in quite quick.
Yeah.
So I mean, and you'd already bought the property, right? So it's not like because obviously what we would teach or what we work with our mentees about is before you go out and buy the property, the first stage is to sit down, go into detail about who's my avatar, who's my perfect client, buy a property that suits them, that matches their requirements, furnish it a certain way. But there was none of that with you.
No, we did consider turning it into HMO because it was a big property. It's one of these TARDIS properties that's kind of
just keeps
small
going
at the front, but at the back it was huge. And so we bought it in the November, and we didn't do anything with it till the February. I mean, this is another thing, because we were getting tradies out, could we do this with it? We didn't know what to do. We thought we could HMO it. It just seemed a waste. It was a 2-bed house. It just seemed too big to just put on the rental market and maybe get 600 quid for. Yeah. Because there was just a lot of different spaces in there. And then, it was just finally like, let's just do it. Let's just try a service accommodation. Just give it a go.
Okay. So...
But we knew it'd do something.
Right.
We'd got it at a good price, even if we ended up letting it. It would have been okay.
Yeah. And I guess another good thing, just as you're kind of saying, like things that come into mind, like the good thing about serviced accommodation is you can, with some basic knowledge, you can give it a go, right?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, then you can pivot. You can change from there, right? You can say, okay, maybe it's not working. Maybe we're the wrong market, wrong area, wrong property, whatever it is. And then you can, you can pivot. So how did that go? How was your levels of occupancy and stuff?
It was really good. We were probably at about 70-75%.
So you was bang on the mark.
But we were paying for laundry and cleaning and stuff. Sometimes we made probably what we would make if we'd just let it out.
Yeah.
Because obviously we were paying a management fee as well.
Right.
So when we took the other one, just put that one straight on Airbnb, and that one just did brilliantly straight away.
Who was your typical client, like your avatar that was coming through?
We get a lot of contractors. So we're at the minute now we've how many have we got now? 7 that we've got running at the minute. We're about 50% direct booking contractors, which I love.
Contractors are the best.
They are the best. And the longer bookings.
Yeah.
And we tend to, once they've stayed once, we tend to go direct after that. So,
yep.
And I get a good relationship with them and things like that. So yeah, and we still do get the Airbnb and Booking.com bookings, but they always tend to be 2 to 4 nights kind of thing. So sometimes when they come through, I've been looking at some of the posts you've been doing recently about blocking out further dates, because we've got some into May that like they've got 2 days, then there's a 3-day gap, then there's 2 days.
Right.
About maybe blocking out a little bit for future. But what we tend to do is, because we're not completely always booked out, if we've got a little 2-day booking and we've got someone who wants to extend, we'll offer them another property.
Sure. Yeah.
We tend to do that a lot.
Or even, and we was having this conversation last night actually on one of our mentoring calls. If you do find yourself in that situation, you can always offer, just put them, if it's a 2-night thing and it's messing up a 6-week.
Yeah.
Put them in a nice hotel, buy them breakfast, send them somewhere fancy.
This is it.
It's worth it, right? They're going to be happy, and you're going to get the business.
Yeah.
So it's not the end of the world, but if you can avoid it, obviously that's the best thing.
Yeah.
So the unicorn's working, and you're now like, okay, I'm seeing the benefits of service accommodation. Mm-hmm. I've got my legacy assets locked in. The kids are taken care of. We're now focusing on cash flow for today, so that we can get into this life where you can actually, and I'm so passionate about this, because like you can spend, people don't seem to realize, what is the point of busting your ass, working 45, 50 hours, 80 hours, 100 hours a week through the best prime years of your life, and then you get to like 60 and you're like, fuck yeah, I made it. And then it's like, shit, my blood pressure's through the roof. I've got arthritis and I'm overweight and stressed out, my cholesterol. You can't enjoy the fruits of your labor, all that hard work. So we've got to do it for today.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So you realize that. So you're like, okay, the cash flow from the SA business is the vehicle we're going to use.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me about that.
So obviously we had at that point then, by March last year, we had 3 running it ourselves, and they were doing well. And then we had 2 buy-to-lets as well. So everything was going nicely. We were turning over a decent amount of money, but not enough that we could both leave work or anything like that. And I was only taking a little bit out of the company.
Yeah.
And then it was my husband who, my husband said, why don't we try rent to SA? Because we'd heard a little bit about it. We'd been doing a bit of research online. And luckily one of his friends at the time had advertised a property up for rent.
Oh, what a surprise. The timing worked perfect for Kelly.
So we approached him and said, can we have a look? We'd love to take it off you. And he's like, you've got first refusal. If you want it, I won't even show anybody else around it. He goes, by the way, I've got another one coming up at the end of this month. People are moving out.
Ka-ching.
So we took this one on the 3rd of May and the second one on the 1st of June. But he actually, they moved out something like the 27th of June, and he gave us the keys. And we had 3 days basically to turn it round, because from that February, when I first left work, we got a contractor booking, and we couldn't get her enough properties. So this is another reason why we took on the rent to SA. We ran out of she said, have you got anything else? She'd filled all 3 of our houses constantly. Have you got anything else? And we were like, when do you need it for? And she gave us a date, and we said, right. And we went out and got these properties, and just
love that.
The second one, 3 days. We had the keys within 3 days, fully furnished, turned around.
3 days?
3 days I did that one in, because she was desperate.
Wow.
They were coming over from abroad, from Italy. They were flying over and they needed somewhere. So
that is huge, what Kelly just said there. And we always bang the drum about this. When someone says, I've got 200 more guys coming to site, do you have any more property?
You just find them.
You say yes.
Oh yeah, I did, yeah. I said no problem.
Even if you don't have it, or even if you don't want to take on any more, you say yes, and you go and find that. Absolutely. And you take a commission.
Absolutely.
You never say no when someone asks you that.
Yeah.
And this is like the thing about service accommodation and contractor specific, right?
Yeah.
Focusing on that as an avatar. Some of these projects, they go on for years, and they involve thousands of people that are coming most of the time from all over the country.
Yeah.
And just think about it, like We did a video recently about, who would possibly stay in my property. Because I think a lot of people think, well, I'm in this area. There's not really much here. It's not very pretty. There's not much going on. Who's going to stay there? There are people, thousands of people moving around this country all the time. Yeah. And think about it. If you're a contractor and you're going to be on the site for 6 weeks, the boss can't put them people in hotels.
No, you don't want to be in a hotel.
You don't want to be in it. You want to cook, you want to garden, you want to lounge, you want
It's more expensive, even if Airbnb is cheaper than a hotel anyway.
Right.
But even if it was a bit more expensive, you're going to save money in the long run because you're going to have to eat out,
exactly.
Or get takeaways, or at least you can sit in the house and they get...
Got to take their clothes to get laundered.
I mean, there's more empty beer cans and boxes ever in the dustbin than there are food wrappers.
Pizza boxes and beer cans. The stove never goes on.
No,
Cooker doesn't. You don't need one of those.
Yeah.
So, all right, I could talk to you for hours and hours about this. It's really, really refreshing and inspirational. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. One, we're at a point now where we're starting to build the service accommodation portfolio with no official training. Mm-hmm. You haven't sat in a classroom, you haven't binged, yes, you've kind of binged some content at home, but you haven't done the official courses, which I think is awesome, that you've got to a point where you've self-educated. And then you've combined that with a shitload of confidence and grind and go-getting and determination and having a clear vision, and you've gone out there and you've made it happen, which is amazing. The other interesting thing is that you've started to now source properties through basically putting yourself out there, talking to people, letting people know what you're doing, and naturally and organically they've started to come to you, as you've just proven. Now, So what Kelly's done, which is interesting here, is she's started to source properties and build a business without any social media, right? You said to me before we started that you're not big on social media.
Not at all.
And that's really interesting because I'm the opposite, right? And I say that to you. And with MNTs, it's like, tell everyone what you're doing, document everything, put it out there, content, build a brand. But I'm completely open to the idea that you can still do good things by simply, just cracking on and just dropping in casual conversations with people who are already in your network, and opportunities will still come.
Yeah.
So that's how you're moving forward now with your business.
Yeah, so we're working with 3 landlords now. So we do a mixture of the rent to SA plus just management as well. So we're looking now for more that we can probably just manage as well.
Wow.
So, and we're trying to branch out areas now. So we've always predominantly been Scunthorpe because they're on our doorstep. So every property is within a 5-minute drive for us. So we like that. It's been important to us that we can keep an eye on it. But we're branching out more now. Not far. Doncaster we're having a look at, because obviously great transport hubs and a lot going on there. Goole, there's a lot happening Goole way on. I'd love to get to Grimsby, Hull kind of way on. Yeah. So we're just trying to branch out a little bit more. But we are going to try the social media side more, get ourselves out there a lot more. Yeah. But it's scary. But
well, you know what, Kelly? If you've done what you've done up till now without any documentation of your journey, without any networking, I'm pretty sure that if you start telling everybody what you're doing, how you've done it, how quickly you've done it, you're just going to blow up.
Yeah.
I can definitely see that. So tell me a little bit, as we start to think about maybe, getting to the end here. Tell me a little bit about your life today. I know you love to travel.
Yeah.
Right? I know you like to go on your trips and get away and see some blue skies. So tell me what your life looks like today, what you've managed to, and the fact that you've managed to achieve that through service accommodation, and how much time do you need to put into this business?
So it's not as though like we've gone into this business, we're successful, so now we can travel kind of thing. Yeah. It's not worked that way. We've always loved to travel. So now we've just found a different way that pays for that to still happen, without having to go to work and book annual leave and try and convince somebody else to move their leave because, you want these dates off kind of thing. So last minute, my daughter in January was, she just had a birthday, and a girlfriend had contacted us and said, well, I'm going to take her to Prague for the weekend. Do you fancy coming? So it was like on a Thursday. We're like, yeah, just booked our flights.
Wow.
Off we went because we could, and, you didn't have to speak to anybody. And it was only a weekend in Prague, but it was just nice to be able to do that. We've got a cruise in 2 weeks today of Dubai. Kids are coming on. That's what I say, kids. I know they're adults, but I still call them.
They're your babies.
And then we travel a lot with them as well. Still, they still want to come on holiday with their mum and dad, because we do awesome holidays. We do. That's our main thing. That if you're gonna go, you do something really special.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple more trips. He's got a boys' trip. I've got a girls' trip coming up. We've got a big villa, 14-bed villa with our friends in Lanzarote in August that we've booked.
The secret to a happy marriage is that you're having your individual trips.
Yeah, well, you've got to.
Which is amazing.
Not enough for me. Girls don't do enough trips. Boys do. He gets to go on everybody's. He doesn't even know half the time whose birthday or stag do it is, but all his friends are going, so there's like 60 of them going. That's
amazing. And he doesn't come home to any silent treatment.
No, you've got to have your own. You've got to have your own time.
I'm a big advocate for that. Yeah. That's really, really cool.
I'm a golf widow, so I'm used to it. So he's always golfing anyway. If he's not.
Got yeah. Golf's blowing up. Yeah. So, tell me a little bit about the systems and how have you structured the business to allow you to just randomly book a flight like that?
So we've got a channel manager.
Yeah.
So obviously anything that comes through automatically feeds and blocks it off on the other channels. We have an amazing, she's not a cleaner, she's a housekeeper basically. She does everything. So she goes in. We've set up one of the properties, the one that I was renovating last January. When I left my job, there's a kind of a back, the old coal house building at the back. So that's separated from the house with a door. We keep that door locked. We've got an external entrance at the back, and we've turned that into a laundrette. So we've got our own laundrette, so we're not paying anyone else to do our laundry. So our cleaner, so we've got 2 massive washers, big dryer, and it's like a washing line in there and stuff as well. I also make sure there's a washing line in every property, so that during summer she can go in, wash the bedding, peg it out while she's cleaning. Quite often it's done. So she put the new bedding on, but then the rest of it's done to fold up, put back in the cupboard for next time.
So you buy all your linen?
Buy it all, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and our cleaner comes in, she changes the lockbox code to the next code, does the clean, does the laundry. It's like half an hour. She charges her a time basically, because she's using our equipment, and quite often she's washing it while she's cleaning, so it's 2 jobs done at once. Because we used to pay about £27 a turnover, which still wasn't bad. But
that's not bad. That's not bad at all.
Yeah, and it was good. Yeah, but it saves us a fortune. So she just does it all. And I mean, we only got her last September, and 3 weeks later we went away for 2 weeks. Our friends got married in Turkey, and we went for the whole 2 weeks. She'd only been working for us for 3 weeks, and we left her to it, and she just absolutely nailed it. I did a little spreadsheet with all the codes and all the bookings that we had, but it's good in some ways if we've got the long contractor bookings that go over the time. I'll leave the calendar open right until before we go. If there's a dodgy bit in between, I might block those couple of days off.
Yep.
We've not really had to a lot. You know, she's more than capable. She's got everything at her fingertips. She's got keys for every property. She's local.
I think a lot of people underestimate, I've done a bunch of posts about this, the importance of having a good cleaning team.
Yeah.
They're not just your cleaners. They're your eyes, your ears, your inspection team, your lockbox code change team, they're everything. And if you don't have that, if you don't have a reliable, trustworthy, good cleaning team, then the business can be difficult, right? So that is a key fundamental part of business.
Absolutely.
And when you find them, treat them like family.
Yeah,
buy them Christmas gifts, give them bonuses.
We look after her, that's what we did. When we got back from holiday, we couldn't believe how well she did everything. So she was nearly in tears. We were like, here you go. Because she did a fantastic job.
She's the reason that you're able to go away on your...
She's kind of trying. She's only just started out last year, so she's trying to build her business.
Right.
So we've been a massive stepping stone for her. She's got so much work from us that we're kind of helping each other build our businesses up.
Absolutely.
And I've introduced her to like Heidi and who's in my area, close to my area, to try and get her kind of built up too.
Yeah, Heidi's in Hull, right?
Yeah, she's more Barton, which is our side of the river. So
yeah, Heidi's awesome. We had her on the podcast. She's the real deal. I like her a lot.
Yeah, she's
true entrepreneur. So tell me a bit about what does the future look like, right? You've now got your established service accommodation business. You are obviously looking to grow it. You're going to throw yourself a little bit into the social media world and start, obviously, this podcast as well is going to attract some attention. But just by documenting your journey, what you're doing, where you are, how you've got there, that's naturally going to bring people to you.
Yeah.
So what does it look like? Where are you trying to get to? What's the end goal here? What's it all about?
For me, like I say, it's focusing more on time. We get a lot more time now, but it's still not where I want to be. I'd love to, and everyone laughs at me because it's just so not me, but I'd love to just go off in a van for 6 months and just travel.
Yeah.
And like I said, everyone's like, you won't like it, because I like a nice hotel or whatever. But you've got the freedom. You could book into a nice boutique hotel or
Absolutely.
a spa for a few
Don't
nights.
always have to stay in the van.
Well, this is it, and it's just the travelling round. I'd love to do it around England first, but the weather will be terrible. Go off around Europe and just travel a lot more and just be able to know that you've got that income coming in. Because the good thing with ours, the way that we're set up, I mean, we don't hear a lot from even if it's the leisure guest clients who are visiting family or whatever, we don't particularly hear a lot from anyone. All the systems are automated. They get an automatic message telling them what the key code is, which I always set it up that it's the last 4 digits of the phone number or the booking number, and that's what she changes it to. Our cleaner, and it's a welcome message. Tells them, have a nice day. We're very local. We always say I'm very local to the property, so if there's anything you need, just let us know. And quite often we don't hear a thing, and I don't mind not hearing a thing.
Do you do any in-person meet and greets?
No.
Okay.
We have met some before. If we've had the odd issue, we've had an issue. The contractors once, there was something in one of their rent-to-rent properties that with the drainage in the bathroom. So we went and had a look. We couldn't fix it. We said, we can get a plumber here tomorrow, but do you, we can move you? And they were like, oh, no, it's fine. You're not going to get that, are you?
No, not with leisure.
No, don't worry about it. It's fine.
Yeah, we've had that. That makes me think of, we had a property, we'd only recently taken it on. I think it was like our second set of guests or something. My sister went in there the morning of, these people was arriving just to do a quick check over, and there was like an ant infestation. There was ants everywhere, all over the floor, all in the cupboard. There was something, I don't know what it was, and they were arriving. Literally, they turned up on the drivers. My sister was like frantically panicking, she was going to rush out and get some ant stuff and all that. And they were like, not a problem. Like, we'll sort that. We'll take care of that.
Yeah.
Contractors are really.
And he's ended up, that guy, he's booked with us half a dozen times since then direct. He always comes to us, have you got a property? And I'll always make sure that we find him one.
Yeah, amazing.
One way or another.
Just something that I just want to touch on, and this isn't so much to do with you, Kelly, but maybe for people who are watching or listening or thinking about getting started or thinking about maybe next year but something that kind of sticks in my mind is somewhat relevant now that we're talking about time and what's important and getting it all done and, enjoying life while you can, while you're still young enough to do it. But in my old job, I never quite got around to the story, but I'll save that for another time. I used to work in the super yacht industry, like I was telling you about, and our boss, who was literally a multi-billionaire, right? Amazing guy, very old guy, but amazing, like respectful, polite, treated us great. I was with him personally, working alongside him for 8 years. Wouldn't have done that if he wasn't a great guy and if the family weren't great. But the point of the story is that when I was working with him, he was in his 80s, multi-billionaire, right? Huge amount of wealth, huge amount of respect around the world, big stages, politicians, huge. The people that would come on board were like, big time. But the point is that I used to sit and I used to watch him. I found him very intriguing, very, very smart, very intellectual. He used to read the papers in 5 different languages every morning. We'd have them delivered in 5 different languages. He'd read in front to cover the Financial Times. But at the end of the day, right, with everything that he'd achieved, with all of his multiple marriages that he'd lost because of how much he was working and all of everything, like, he was alone, right?
Yeah.
He was alone, and you could tell he wasn't really happy because he was old, right? He was old and he couldn't do things anymore that he wished he could. And I know I would never have asked him, but if I'd have said to him, would you switch your wealth today to get your time back and be a young person again? For sure, like in a heartbeat. Yeah. And that was always something that stuck in my mind. And that's why I'm so against this idea of, work, get the Lamborghini, get the house. If you can do that while at the same time you're able to have enough time to enjoy those things, that's different. But if you're just working your ass off to, by the time you're old, achieve monetary wealth and you've given up the best years of your life in exchange for it, I think that's bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what would you say to people who are sitting at home thinking, wow, Kelly's inspirational, I love what she's achieved, she's now got financial freedom, time freedom, does what she wants, with who she wants, where she wants. What would you say when they're thinking maybe next year? I'm going to do that next year.
Just do it. Just jump in and do it. As long as you've got, because we didn't do it completely blind of like no no financial knowledge at all. As long as you've got an idea that whatever, if you're going to jump in and buy something, just make sure you're buying at the right price, because you make money when you buy, not when you sell. I mean, and that is really, really true. But I think it's just important just to give it a go. As long as you've got, what we kind of said is, with us, we were lucky that we had that bit of financial backing behind us, that if it was to go tits up, as it were, we might have had to have sold our house to pay it off or whatever, but we were never going to be destitute. And like we said, we lived in rubble for a year. If we had to just buy something else smaller or rent somewhere, we had each other, we gave it a go, we were happy with that kind of thing. So as long as you've got it in you and you've got a goal, just aim for that goal. And if anything goes wrong on the way to it, just keep going. Just keep going.
Yeah, amazing. What is the worst thing that can happen? Now, I understand that you took these chances, took these opportunities while you also had some investments to fall back on, like you said, but that was kind of a consequence of the hard work that came before it. But really, when you look at your own personal situation, even if you don't have assets, I'm not saying leave your job, quit everything and go all in on property or in on your dream, whatever that is. But maybe while you've got that job, start your side hustle.
That's what we did. We just started it in the background. But I mean, I could have quite easily said, we started this journey, but then I lost my job. So I was like, oh no, we can't do it anymore. I just need to get another job. So it's just where you take it, and how determined you are to kind of go for it.
Yeah, because so many people come home from their job, right? It's 5 o'clock in the evening, they've got home, and then they spend the rest of the night laying on the couch scrolling TikTok. Right, when they could be putting 3 hours of that evening into building their side hustle, learning their side hustle, educating themselves on something that's going to eventually get them out of that job. Yeah. So I think it's all about wanting it enough, being hungry enough, being inspired, and guys, following people who are where you want to get to. Yeah. Right, look at Kelly and be like, okay, she's done this without spending tens of thousands on training or overanalyzing everything. And this paralysis analysis, she just went all in. She went for it. She knew that this would potentially work in ours.
And I think it's important to know as well, though, that you hear all these stories and it sounds incredible, but there is a reality to that as well. Where we are now is exactly where our goal was, but it doesn't. It pays the bills, it pays us a wage, which is brilliant. We always said, as long as we can, do this, get a wage for it ourselves, still make a little bit of money and this, that and the other. And we're at that point now, but like I say, we're not making what we made on our salaries. Yeah. So you kind of always want to build it up to be bigger. Yeah. But you've just got to realise when people say, you can turn over 5 figures a month, by the time you've paid the rents and the mortgages, and we're still stuck with council tax because the VOA take forever to go onto business rates. So we're paying business rates and council tax and the waste bins on some properties because it's just a mess. There's a lot of outgoings with it as well. There is. And even though we've got a lot of time back, we're not putting half as much time in as we would on a job. Because of what we're doing refurbishments and stuff as well. So some days we'll be working all day down at the houses. Some days we'll just go to the coast and have fish and chips. Yeah. And it's just nice to have that little bit of freedom. But at the same time, you're not making a fortune in the beginning because there's a lot of expense when you're kitting a place out. Even it's a lot of upfront expense. Absolutely. And we say that we say, look, the rent to serviced accommodation model is a strategy that gets you started quick. Right, you don't need tens and hundreds of thousands of pounds for deposits. It starts generating cash flow. It can get you in a position where you now have more freedom to start looking, once you've built up your service accommodation business and you're comfortable with it and it's systemized and automated and giving you an income, then you can start looking at the longer, more legacy building strategies, right? Buying, converting, adding value, all that kind of stuff. But this business is great to get you into the position where you, as a springboard. Definitely. Right? Absolutely. And you've proven that. So Kelly, it's been an incredible, inspiring story. I think you're amazing. I think what you've achieved and the speed at which you've done it. And I really like the fact that you're doing it with your partner as well. Yeah. You've raised your family. You've kind of come from nothing to where you are today. And you've done it all as this unit, which I think is really nice. Yeah. You haven't let it break you down. You haven't let the stress or the anxiety or the worry of it all kind of affect your family life. So I think that's really inspirational as well. You know where you're trying to get to. You're living your best life now through serviced accommodation.
accommodation, you've got the legacy assets already set up in the background, your kids are taken care of. Like when you wrap it all up in a little package like that, you're like, shit.
I think sometimes you have to step back and you don't really see it when you're in it.
Yeah.
You know?
It's really, really cool. So one last question that I'd like to ask, that I ask pretty much everyone that comes on the podcast, and I'd ask you, if you can, to be as vulnerable and honest with it as you can be, as comfortable as you can be. So I think there's a lot of mental health issues in the world. I think there's a lot of people that pretend they're okay, talk a big game, but when they're at home alone, they're like in a really dark place. Mm-hmm. Social media, the pressures of business, the pressures of relationships, family, whatever it is, not feeling fulfilled, not feeling worthy, not feeling like they've achieved anything. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of people might be listening to this, looking at you and saying, Kelly's smashing it. You know, she's achieved all this stuff. I wish I could be more like Kelly. Are you today happy with where you are and where you're going?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. But everyone has the moments, you know. It is really intimidating when you have to sit down and you're doing the accounts, and like we've just gone VAT registered, and I'm having to deal with all that and do VAT returns, and then just knowing, really, I've had a bit of experience in accounts and stuff, so I know some things, but I'm not really educated in that properly to know the rules, and it's a really scary place. And sometimes I just have days where I just feel like I want to cry. I don't know why, but it's just sometimes just overwhelmed. It is overwhelming because you're responsible for your own future, you know, and I know you could lose a job like that at any time. It's happened, but you do have that, you feel like you've got that security, I think, in an employed role. But I'm getting more and more out of that mindset now, because I think you kind of end up getting trained into an employee mindset where you think you've got to be kind of busy all the time, or you feel like you're failing if you don't know what you're doing in the next day, or, you know, I should be doing so. I had that kind of thing. I feel like I should be busy all the time, like I'm at work, and getting that mindset of, you know, just enjoy it a little bit.
Right,
you know?
There is a thing around that. Where you sit at home, you're like, I should be busy, I should be doing something.
Guilt, it's terrible, but Rick's brilliant for that, because he doesn't feel any of that at all. So he's really, really laid back, which is why it works so well. And he's like, don't worry about it. Let's go get Chip Shop Friday. Come on.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. It should be finished, you know. And it's great because you can choose, you know, pick and choose a lot more. Because a lot of people have said to us, like, is it going to be all right, you know, working together? That's brave. I couldn't do that, you know, when we're renovating the house together and stuff. Yeah. But we love it. Amazing. Kelly, it's been a great time listening to your story. I'm so glad that we could get you on, and I think that people listening and watching this are definitely going to be inspired. And I would say, guys, if you want to know anything about, be inspired, look at what Kelly's achieved. If you want to do the same thing, if you want to get into the serviced accommodation world, flips, BRRs, whatever it might be, or just kind of sitting down and trying to work out a way forward. Maybe you're coming out of a bit of a difficult spot with work and you're looking to transition and you just need a bit of a confidence boost to see what's possible. Check out Kelly. We're going to put all of Kelly's contact details in the show notes on the podcast. So are they okay to reach out? Absolutely, yep. Feel free to reach out, no problem at all.
Awesome. Kelly, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. It's been fantastic. And we'll wrap it up there. And guys, we will see you next week for another episode of the Airbnb Nomads. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you.